G'day, hi, and welcome. Alright, here we go. Let's get into this. Alright, this is probably about the 20th time I've attempted to make this video. The last time I tried to make it, I was driving along in my truck and the road was so bouncy that my driver's side door kept opening. So it was a funny video, but I can't hear that. So I thought I'd do something a little different for a couple of reasons. Just a little bit of housekeeping for my channel, for those of you that actually follow my channel. It's winter time right now at the making of this video, which is not going to be relevant for the video because this could be at any time of the year that you get into scrap metal. But because it's hard for me to upload, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to give you some of these window movie maker videos because they're smaller to upload and it's quicker, just because I got to upload on the Wi-Fi, so which is really slow. So the GoPro videos they're a little bit too big to get them out fast enough, and I'd like to give you at least a couple of videos a week if I can, but we'll see. Anyway, that's all I got to say about that. So scrap metal, you want to get into scrap metal. Okay, well, first off, I'm just going to start with my credentials. I've only been into scrap metal for about a year now. I've hauled a bit with my trucks and hauled a bit with another guy's trucks. And I figured there's a lot of guys making videos about scrap metal and stuff like that. And when you watch them, they give you a lot of good advice and stuff like that in getting into it and stuff like that as well. So I thought I'd throw my hat in the ring on this one. And the thing is I've only been doing it for about a year. Now, there's a couple of rules that I've noticed right from the get-go, and some of these pictures are just like random pictures of my brake jobs and my trucks and whatever, so it just gives you something to look at. So the thing is that I learned is that, you know, like question number one, can you do metal full-time? The answer is, well, there's people doing it, so the answer is yes. Can you make a lot of money at scrap metal? Well, the answer is simply yes, you can make a lot of money at scrap metal. Is it easy to make money at scrap metal consistently? There lies the gray area. So most people don't know where to start. And it really is one of those things where you want to start at a spot where you can manage. Because what happens is people, and you see this with people doing this with all kinds of businesses, they get an idea in their head and then they just throw money at it and think that's gonna, okay, well, if I go and buy myself a brand new truck, I'll collect scrap metal with that. It doesn't work like that. I'll go buy, I'll sell everything, buy a trailer and a truck, and I'll be good. I'll get a 4x8 trailer and that'll be enough, and I'll make enough on that. It doesn't work like that either. It sort of works like that, but it doesn't work like that to get at it so that you're making money. And by money, I mean like you're making, you know, good enough coin that you can actually survive off of it. And you're not like, you know, just seat of your pants. So right now, am I living off of scrap metal full time? No, I'm actually in my down season, and basically I've pretty much got virtually no work right now. Once it starts snowing a bit more, well then, I've got like, you know, little old lady wants me again to shovel off a roof, so I'll probably do that like 2 or 3 times this winter. So, you know, a couple of $100 there, right? And then, you know, a little job here, a little job there. So the winter is pretty sparse for me. Through the summer, did I only make money with scrap metal? No, I didn't. But we got some really good picks this summer. In fact, we probably miss out on there's hopefully we can get it done next year. I wasn't able to finish off a contract that would have been really good, and a really good client too, because the thing with metal is it gets picked clean. And by that I mean is like ever since they've opened up, and now I'm really lucky, and this is something we'll get into as we go. I don't know how long this video will be, but I'll see how much ground I can cover in it. How close you are to your scrap metal drop off, the weigh scales, so to speak, scrapyard, can make or break your money. Like if you live like 50 miles from your scrapyard, that's a lot of gas that it's going to cost you, or diesel, depending on what your truck is, to get there. Now, let's say you got a Honda Civic, okay, and you want to haul scrap metal with a Honda Civic. Can it be done? Yes. Can you make money off of it? No. Because even though you'll save all the fuel, you're going to wear out the vehicle so fast, it's not going to be funny. I know there are people that'll do it, but it's not ideal. Can it be done? Yes, but it all depends on what you're hauling, right? So anybody can haul batteries, anybody can haul copper, brass, etc., that pays big, and you don't have to take as much. Like 200 pounds of brass in your truck, number one brass in your truck or a car is probably going to pay you a day's wage or more. Like the last time we went in, it was $2.10 a pound, and I had 97 pounds of gun brass, and yeah, so that was a good day. Plus, we had a whole bunch of other stuff: aluminum, copper, brass, number one brass valves and stuff like that. But we'll get into all that later. So the number one rule I would come up with, whether you're a professional, you've been doing it for years, I'm sure there's going to be guys that have been doing it for years, like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. You always get that anyway. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. It's just my observation of what I've learned. I wouldn't say I'm an expert at it, because it's one of those things that you're going to learn a lot of tricks, but there's a few fundamentals that you're going to learn right away. Number one, the metal must come to you. If you think you're going to drive around every garbage pickup night, or when everybody puts out their garbage, and drive around and fill your truck with tons and tons of metal, you're probably going to spend more money in gas than you're going to get in the metal. Just so you know. It doesn't really work well like that. Sometimes you get away with it, but once you do it once, after a couple of weeks, the area is going to thin out. And not only that, you're going to be competing where the metal's easy to grab. It's like anything, you're going to have more competition. And not only that, there's usually guys that they kind of stake an area. It's a little bit of a Wild West, Mad Max when it comes to collecting metal. There's no rules, meaning if you're driving along and you see a pile of metal on the side of the road and you yell dibs, no one's going to care. You know what I mean? So, well, I saw that scrap metal pile first, and then the other guy pulls on and grabs it just before you do. Yeah, guys will go at each other with crowbars. I haven't seen it in my area, but the metal guys up here, ever since the scales have opened up, I mean, they get anywhere from 10 trucks a day on. That's a fair amount of metal for a new place. Now, a full-fledged place that might get 100 trucks a day or whatever, who knows how many scrap metal trucks, that thins out. So guys are coming in from further away to grab our metal. Problem is they don't make money doing this, so I'm not even worried about them as competition, because they're going to phase out. Why? Because they're just not going to make any money. If you drove all the way from Ottawa to my place, you drove 100 kilometers or 60 miles, okay, if you're picking up metal along the way, maybe you've got a full run. Great. You might be able to get away with that about 2 or 3 times. And then once people's garages are cleared out, they're cleared out. Once you know what I mean? Once the curbside pickup is done, it's done. And it takes a while to build that metal up in the area again. Now, fortunately, I live in the countryside, which is a vine and a vice. Means the metal is harder to find, but when you find it, you find usually metal that's been sitting on a farm somewhere or wherever, or in a shop for like decades. You know what I mean? So you usually find a couple of tons at a time to make your day. So the number one rule is the metal must come to you. Doesn't matter how it comes to you. It has to be in such a manner that your overhead is next to nothing. So somebody calls you, hey Reg, you're heading out this way anytime soon. I've got a fridge or a stove or a hot water tank or something like that for you. And I get metal that way. So I'm going that way anyway. So that I don't really count as it's, going out of my way, wasting money on gas, because I had to spend, burn that gas anyway going somewhere else. So grab the metal on the way back. It's sitting there. No one's going to take it because it's sitting in somebody's garage or whatever. I just back up, load up, say thank you, and I do them a favor. I become their solution to get rid of the junk in their area, and I recycle. And you feel good about scrap metal. The other thing is about scrap metal is you got to be in shape. I mean, jumping in and out of the truck is almost as fatiguing as it is loading the truck. I swear to God, like just jumping in, jumping out, jumping in, jumping out. You know what I mean? You're going to feel it on the feet, But the next one I would say is get yourself a mentor. This is probably the number one rule to me, is the metal has to come to you. The number two, possibly on par with number one, is get yourself a mentor. Somebody who's been doing it a long time. Not a guy that's just been collecting metal for a long time, but a guy that makes good money at it. There's a reason why some guys get $40 a ton and some guys get $140 a ton. And it's called shopping around. Like, for example, in town, it was $80 a ton, I think at the end of August. Like, it was really horrible in town. They were their prices were low. Up here it was 140 a ton. It was great. You know what I mean? So guys were hauling from further away to bring in the tonnage because they were offsetting the fuel cost. But how are they doing it? Well, this comes to the, if you want to call it the number three rule, is volume. If you can't carry enough at a time, you will not make money. You will not make enough money. Even a big truck that you see, well, you're going to see a bunch of trucks in here, but that white truck that you just saw, that's my big Snow Beast Brutus. That's my Dodge, 2002 Dodge Ram 1500 SLT Hemi, right? Magnum. It's a Hemi Magnum. And the thing about that truck is it has a 6.5-foot box on it. I got that like wood fence around it, which helps. It means I can stack things high. But a 6.5-foot box, you'd be surprised how fast. Like one lawnmower, riding lawnmower, 2 hot water tanks, and a stove, and you're full. You know what I mean? I had 4 gas stoves in there. They were about 150 pounds each, so that's not too bad. And then I had to jam metal all around it, and I was able to get about 1,500 pounds out of there. In there, the last load I did was pretty light. It was probably more like 600 pounds or something that I had. It wasn't very much anyway. So the problem is you're going to find a lot more scrap metal that's big and bulky that weighs next to nothing. Freezers are the worst. Like modern freezers weigh like, I don't even think they weigh 60 pounds. You know what I mean? And it's all that volume. So what you have to do is, whether it's a stove, a fridge, freezer or something like that, you got to fill everything in it. You got to fill every nook and cranny. What you really want is like one metal shop that I got this. We did. How many loads did we do in that? I think we only did the one load, and it was 2.5 tons that we brought out of there, and we're probably still got another 2.5 tons left. And my buddy and I just didn't get around to it. But getting back to the mentor, because my buddy. Paul, he was a little bit camera shy, so unfortunately, I asked him if he'd want to part some of his wisdom in the videos, and he was kind of hesitant about it. Not everybody wants to be on camera. Great guy, and I learned a lot from him. And he'd been collecting metal for about 17 years. And again, you'll hear from one guy, oh, there's no money in metal. It's like $45 a ton or whatever. And some places will be $45 a ton. Some places will be 60, some places will be 100. Some places will be $200 a ton. You have to shop around. And that was the first thing he said. You call here, you call there, so you know where you're going. Other times, you just hang on to the metal. So if you don't have a place, especially if you live in the city, this is where you have a big drawback. Is even if you have your own backyard in the city, you start putting metal in your backyard, your tenants association is going to carry it out on you pretty quick. They're going to, oh my God, the environmental, they're going to call the environment on you. You know what I mean? So you're really, if you can, the golden rule is the day you load should be the day you dump it. Sometimes it doesn't work. Like if you're only going to get 1 or 2 items at a time and build up, like I say, a fridge, a stove, or whatever. Maybe it's a car axle. It doesn't really matter. Whatever scrap metal you get. Tin is the worst because it weighs nothing. You know what I mean? Like if you can get it all on there flat and you can get like enough of it, yeah, it'll eventually weigh something. But a lot of big stuff doesn't weigh enough. So you need volume to be able to haul enough. But you also need to know what you're going to haul first. And this is where your mentor helps you. Like for example, Paul always told me, keep a magnet in the truck. Why? Because sometimes you can't tell if it's stainless steel or if it's aluminum, and a lot of times the stainless steel is the same price as the regular steel. Sometimes it's not, right? But again, you shop around, you see if some places they really diversify the metals, other they don't as much. So, you need to learn your metals, and the best way to do that is to go with somebody who knows the metals well, who's been doing it for years, such as my buddy Paul. So you learn your number 1 copper, wire bright 1, 2, whatever. Not copper 1, copper 2, brass 1, brass 2. Sometimes there's a 3 in there. Different grade levels. Again, depending on where you go, you can get multiple grade levels. Personally, I think you're probably better off going with the scrapyard that has the least amount of grade levels on stuff. Like different categories, but least amount of grade levels. Meaning there's number 1 copper and there's number 2 copper. That's it. And so it's more cut and dry of, oh well, that's number 3 or number 4 or whatever. You know what I mean? So because each number from one after one is going to devalue the price, right? So sometimes, and the other time is to just realize when it's just cheaper to throw it all in as bulk steel and when you should separate it. But a mentor will show you all this. Because you can lose money doing this. Mainly, you're going to lose money on fuel and probably tires and just wear and tear of the vehicle. You will wear out brakes very quickly. You will wear out rotors very quickly. Vehicle doesn't matter. You're hauling metal. Um, Depending on where you live, I'm more like on the highway, but so I don't use the brakes as much. But every time you stop, your stopping distance is almost twice, right? Because of this, you've got basically a truck on the back of your truck. You literally got a truck on the back of your truck. So you're going to be doing that. Now, the next thing I'd say is, what are you going to haul with? Okay, there's two. This is kind of a two-prong one. Where are you going to store it, and what are you going to haul it with? So let's say, like I say, you don't pick metal every day, but you're an opportunist. You're driving home. It's garbage night, or whenever they put out. Okay, there's 55 bicycles thrown out that weekend, and you get them all. Okay, one bike on itself, steel bike on itself, is probably not going to weigh very much, but there might be some number one aluminum on there. It might be worth it for you to strip it down a bit more. Number two, it might just be all bulk steel, but 55 bikes might weigh a couple 100 pounds. Recycling it with your food cans. Every time I open a tin can of food, I take the label off and I throw it in the back of my truck. Like Paul makes, like, this is how he makes money. Goes Reg, he goes, I save up all my cans. I get all my cans from my mom's place. I get all the cans from a friend's place. And he goes, I usually have about 3 or 4, 500 pounds of cans a year. Maybe 10 cents a pound. You know what I mean? So, like, you average that out, like there's $50 right there in cans. You wouldn't think it, but there you go. Like, that's how you make money with metal. It's the little stuff adds up. It all adds up. Like, it'd be nice to just find piles of brake rotors, stuff like that, or like drivetrain components that are all solid steel, number one steel, sure. Really heavy stuff. Grater blades are awesome. Some places will get rid of stuff like that, but you need the metal to come to you. You need, whenever, like, for example, we cleared out the mechanic shop, it was all old heavy equipment stuff. We had dump truck plenums, we had diesel engines, we had grater blades, stuff like that, like steel I-beams, like 6-inch, 8-inch, 10-inch I-beams, 10, 12 feet long. That was a good pick. That was a really good pick. We did 19 loads out of there, I think we did, and averaged, well, with my red truck, because my tires were getting kind of questionable and my brakes were getting kind of questionable, and finally my brakes are done now on the red truck. I was probably averaging 1.5 tons every load. Paul's Dodge Ram was averaging about 2.5 because he had the bigger trailer. I only had the 4x8, and it was a tandem 4x8, but it was like that sucker was able to carry 3,500 pounds, but it was a 4x8. So as you would imagine, it didn't take much to fill it up, and it was very, it didn't have high sides on it or anything like that. We'll get to the trailers in a second, but so yeah, learning your metals and knowing what to sort. Number one, aluminum, you put it aside. Wire. Now Paul has a proper wire stripper. It's about $300. Now I wouldn't start off with buying equipment until you do a couple of runs, just to see what you get. You know what I mean? Pick the easy stuff to put aside for like let's say you get a car engine and it's got an aluminum manifold on it. Well, take that manifold off there. It's completely clean. There's no other steel on there. That's number one. You know what I mean? Barbecues. A lot of them are, they're made out of aluminum or stainless. See if it's worth it to take it apart. If you're going to spend 5 hours taking something apart, it's not worth your time. You know what I mean? Just chuck it into the pile. If you can bust it apart in a few minutes, it might be worth it. Copper. Cleaning up your copper. I mean, get yourself a chop saw. Two major tools you're going to want to have is a chop saw, and a cable, like I say, a wire cable stripper. which comes with dies. And the one he got is like basically about 300, almost $400, right? But the last load we did of number one aluminum wire, which is like the big heavy cable stuff, almost an inch and a quarter thick or whatever on the of wire. That stuff we had, I forget how many pounds we had. We had about 150 pounds at 65 cents a pound or something like that. So you can see how it could pay for itself fairly easily. But he also has, again, connections of the metal coming to us. Well, when it comes to the wire, a lot of that comes from electricians. Electricians are your friends. Welders are your friend. Sometimes welders like, yeah, I just got all this little scrap stuff. I'm too busy. I'm making $70 an hour anyway. So you come and grab all my little scrap bits. I'll make a pile for you. You take it away. I'll call you when it's ready. And maybe you get 500 pounds at a time or whatever, 200 pounds at a time. Okay, you might not go out of your way for just 200 pounds, but if you're going in that direction or it's in your area and it's cheap enough on the fuel to go get it, you'll do that, right? So that's how you kind of weigh and measure whether you're going to make money on this. So if you're driving out for every single item, you're going to burn a lot of money in gas. So you got to kind of get things set up on your route. Maybe just announce in your area, friends, family, whatever. Hey, if anybody wants their metal pickup by next week, let me know. I'm going to do a run in this area. And then everybody, they'll let you know, give you some feedback. If I get enough people, to fill a truck, well, you'll do it. Stuff like that. So your network is a part of getting the metal, the number one rule, getting metal to come to you. So learning your metals, you're going to come across all kinds of, sometimes it's hard to tell the brass from the copper and stuff like that, especially when it's all dirty and corroded and everything like that. The number one aluminum, again, you're going to find all kinds of stuff that you're going to start to get an eye for where the money is in it and what's worth separating, what's not worth separating. The other thing you're going to find is that what you can and can't take. So wherever you're going to drop off your metal, like for example, barbecue tanks. Barbecue tanks, sometimes you can knock the tops off them and they'll take them as scrap metal. But again, it's a bulky item and it doesn't weigh very much, so is it really worth it, right? Yeah, you'll throw it on the pile, but you wouldn't want to take a whole bunch of them. But a lot of places, because of environmental, it's not them, but the environment will say, no, that's considered a hazard waste product, because even once the top is off of it, they might not take it, right? So that's the problem here I have, is like I can't take propane tanks because they're not, they just don't take them, right? And if you get caught throwing off stuff like that's like got wood in it and plastic and stuff like that, the guys see what you're doing. They know how people cheat. Like again, you bring the dishwasher that's been sitting out. Like there's a dishwasher that a washing machine I was supposed to pick up from a friend. I went to pick it up and it weighed like 300 pounds. Great, right? No, because it was full of water and it was frozen. So you show up with just that and it's 300 pounds, they're going to know you're cheating the system, right? And you don't want to be caught doing that, because at some point they'll just turn you away, and you really don't want to, like, you're going to make money at this, you don't need to cheat. You don't need to become slimy. There's no reason to do it. You can make very good money on this. I'll give you some numbers near the end of the video or whatever. But the thing is that you got to also consider stuff like that too. You know what I mean? Like getting things heavy enough. Like I say, the big one is the washing machines, the dryers, the fridges, the stoves. The old cast iron stoves, yeah, no problem. They're 300, 400, 500, 600 pounds. You get one of those old like granny stoves there. Those things could be like 800 pounds. Yeah, get 2 of those a day and you're good, right? You got a day's pay just out of 2 of them, if you can find them, because it's all cast iron, right? Cast iron versus steel, sometimes they just mix them in together. My area does that. They don't diversify too much from that. Again, some areas will. Some areas will give you a price for lead different than they'll, other times they'll just say it's the same price as the steel. So what do you mix in with what, right? Yeah, so if you can get to like things like catalytic converters, sometimes you get a lot of money for those. And it's not always just going to the scrapyard. Like, I mean, sometimes, like, for example, car batteries. Shop around to see who's going to give you the best price. Your local scrapyard's probably not going to give you the best price. There are battery cyclers out there that will do stuff like that. One guy in my area, he gives you quite a bit. He gives you, I forget how much it was a pound, but it was quite a bit. You know, average say was 18 to 23 cents a pound, sometimes 13 cents a pound. He was given more like 40 cents a pound, something like that. But he'd only take 7 batteries from you at a time. So that, you know, there's that kind of thing. So you'd take your heaviest batteries to him, and you know, one day a week that he would do this. I think it's on a Monday or Tuesday that does this. And I have a whole bunch of batteries ready for him. But I'm going to spend so much money in gas going down that way that it's not worth it for me to go unless I'm going that way. So in other words, the next time I do a metal run out that way, I'll bring those batteries down with me, get rid of those, get paid on that, bring back and bring back money with me, right? So basically, scrap steel is the new gold because the turnaround is so quick, right? The other thing I would say is the faster you can load and the faster you can unload is where you make your money. So if it takes you 3 hours to load up a whole bunch of small stuff like it, I think it took 2.5 hours to do the antique shop there with all the metalworks and stuff like that. It was 3 stories, and it was like a really old house, like an 1800s house that's been going to get converted into a bed and breakfast. I can't speak today. And there was the guy that lived there before the lady that bought it. Basically, was an iron worker. He did like arts and crafts and welding and artworks with steel. So this guy had so much. It's amazing the building didn't collapse. Testament to how well the building was made. But every floor had at least a couple of like I said, we got 2.5 tons out of there, and there's still probably double that there. And we loaded that up. Took about 2.5 hours to load. It was an hour there, 2.5 hours to load, and an hour back, and about 45 minutes to unload. You always tend to unload faster, but if you can get yourself a dump trailer, that's the ideal. Now, let's talk about the guy who's got no money and he's just getting into this. And he's got a Honda Civic. And the reason why I'm going to say the Honda Civic is you will see the Honda Civic guys out there. These guys will stick at it a little bit, but that's not their main gig. They're not going to make money just off of that with a Honda Civic. Number one, the typical car is only meant to take 4 passengers, 5 passengers, so a loading of 12 to say 1,600 pounds is a typical car's leaf spring max weight, right? So that's a fully loaded car. And if you were to have a car, no matter what the car is, luxury car, whatever, your suspension, if you have full passenger companionship in that vehicle every day, that suspension isn't going to last. Really, cars are designed for 1 or 2 people at a time, and maybe kids. That's it. That's why people get SUVs and stuff like that. The car suspensions just don't last. I mean, you buy any luxury car more than 10 years old, the thing floats down the highway because the suspension's done, right? So you're not going to haul metal with that. And even if you put a ball hitch on there, you're going to burn out your transmission. You need a truck. So let's say you got like a little Datsun 4-cylinder truck or a Toyota or something like that. A little 4-cylinder truck or a Ford Ranger, B40, whatever. Not the 6 cylinders, but the 4 cylinders. Well, now you're talking quarter-ton truck. So again, you're on the small size. You can, if you have a 6-foot box, you're going to be limited to what you can put in there. You're going to fill that up. You're really talking about pulling a trailer. Your money's made with the trailer, not really with the box. So you got a Datsun truck with a 6-foot box, and we'll just say that for hypothetical, or 6.5-foot box, and you got it's a shallow box, and you've got a 4x8 single axle trailer, good for 1,500 pounds. So you're basically, your rig setup is effective without wearing out the vehicle or destroying the trailer. You're really looking at bringing a ton at a time. So if you live far away, at 60, 80 bucks a ton, it's probably not going to pay you to haul that stuff. You're going to wait till the price goes up. So now you need a place to store that metal, right? So that when you do haul, you're going to make enough. Now, let's say you got just a ton of brass. Well, if you can get that lucky, a ton of brass at $2 a pound, you're going to have a really good payday. You know, you're looking at $4,000, like $4,000 right there, right? How often is that going to happen to you? Probably slim to none. But you might get a couple hundred pounds at a time, and you will probably get a few hundred pounds over time. Maybe you'll get, a ton of brass over a year. Who knows? Depends where you work, depends what your connections are. Same with the aluminum. Aluminum, maybe if it's $1.60 a ton, whatever it is, prices go up and down. Sometimes things drop right down to like $1 a pound or whatever on the fine stuff. Whatever it is, it is. It's all by weight. So the more tonnage you have, the quicker you can make money, even when the prices drop. Now, the second one is the volume and weight. It's not always just about the weight. Sometimes it's about the volume, because sometimes you can't get the weight until you can take the volume. So let's say you get an area and there's like 12 hot water tanks, and each hot water tank is like drained and been drained for a while, and it doesn't weigh 150 pounds each. They weigh maybe 40 to 60 pounds each, but you got 12 of them. Well, you don't even have a ton there. You know what I mean? Like 60 pounds each. You've got, what do you got? 1,320 pounds. What I mean? You don't even have that. But you would need a fair sized trailer to be able to load all those, just because even if you stack them one on top of each other, or like like whatever, stack them standing up. I mean, that's you're going to need a large trailer to be able to pull that. Now, with the trailer, before you even worry about a bigger truck, you're really, a 6-cylinder or an 8-cylinder truck is going to probably be more ideal. Ideally, even an older beat up V8 is probably going to be your best bet, even if it's 2-wheel drive, because you just got that displacement, right? And it'll pull. And not only that, you have a heavier axle, you have a heavier, drivetrain, heavier frame, all that stuff. The small trucks, you'll do it, but you're going to wear that truck out. So, if it's like a $500 truck, who cares, right? You'll get your money back, but it's probably not going to last you long, right? So let's say you got a newer truck, or a heavier truck, a V8 of some sort, but you still got the 6.5-foot box. Well, that 6.5-foot box is going to be too small, volume wise. So you're really going to have to make it up your volume in the trailer. So a V8, no problem. 4x4 doesn't really matter that much unless you're hauling in the winter. Dually, yeah, nice thing about the dually is you can haul a massive amounts long distance, and you got pulling power there. So you can take more in one load, so to speak. So even if it takes you all day to load in one load, you get the job done in one day, and you get a big payout. So I would recommend trailers, if you have just a regular pickup truck, whether it has a 6.5-foot box or an 8-foot box, preferably an 8-foot box, and a V8, that will be ideal. So I would hunt around for a truck like that. The problem is finding a truck cheap enough. Now I got lucky with my truck, my 2002 F-150, that one I call Freddy, the big red road beast. That one I got lucky. I got it from one of my uncles for $500, right? And I put $400 worth of brakes on it, and now I got to do the exhaust and the brakes again, maybe a tune-up and whatever, and I obviously have to do some body work on it. But that was a cheap enough truck, and that truck I've been driving for about 2 years. And it's made me, trust me, it was making me, pretty much making me its cost every week. So not only did I afford the fuel in it, I could also afford, I was able to afford to replace the truck and fix it up, put money away to, get me through the winter and all that. But I needed a vehicle for the winter, so that I got lucky and I got that second truck for $1,500, which was the Ram. And now I got a third truck, my uncle's, but that won't be a work truck, and that'll be a different project truck. You'll see that one as I fix it up. But here's what gets interesting, is the Ram, that thing is really heavy built. Bigger engine, going from a 4.6 liter engine to a 5.7 liter engine, and it's 4x4. And I got 10-ply tires on it. So let's say you get a cheap truck, okay, for $500, $1,000, whatever. Don't go for a pretty truck, especially if it's going to be a metal truck, because it's going to end up pretty banged up and scratched up. I can guarantee you it's not going to look nice. It's going to look like my white truck, because that's what a metal truck ends up. Because that is a metal truck. That truck has probably hauled a battleship worth of metal in the past 17 years or whatever. You will wear out your transmissions. Obviously, tires. You want good tires, 10-ply tires at least. If you don't have 10-ply tires, just be careful with your loadings. You know what I mean? Always check your tire pressures. Always do that every time you go out on a load. Check your trailer. Check all that. Like, the trailer is where you're going to make the money, because that's where your volume. The downside with trailers is depends where you can get into. Some places you can't get in tight with a trailer, so it could be whatever. You have to take that into consideration. But most of the time you can get in there. So if you can get a bigger trailer, get a bigger trailer. Put sides on the trailer so you can get volume height. Even if you can only carry, say, 2 tons in that trailer, or 1.5 tons, whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. It's the volume. Because, like I say, one place we loaded a trailer into the trailer. The trailer didn't weigh that much, maybe play 250 pounds, whatever it was. It was just a trailer, no wheels on it. It was just this 4x8 trailer. So maybe it weighed 250 pounds, 300 pounds, whatever it was. But we put the trailer in the trailer. But it, like, just fit. You know what I mean? And obviously, it was a lot of volume that we had enough small stuff to fit around it. It didn't matter. But it was a lot of volume that really didn't weigh very much. You know what I mean? So your trailer, buy the largest trailer you can get that carries the most. Now be careful with trailers, because if you get a trailer that carries a lot, if it carries over, you're going to have to know your laws in your area. Because for example, here, once we go over 10 tons, you're now a commercial vehicle. So let's say you got a trailer and it carries 10 tons and you got a pop can in the back of that. Technically, they can fine you because you're over the weight limit. So it's not what the truck is, it's what it can carry. That's the same with like the 450, those 450 trucks. The 400s, the 4500s, 450 series trucks. I can't drive those trucks because I don't have the licensing for those. I can drive a 350, but the 450 is considered like a commercial vehicle, right? So same with the 5500s and all that. So a lot of guys, they're probably not going to get into that heavy of a truck anyway, because they're probably going to use their daily driver, which will be like a 1500 series or 2500 or 3500 series truck, 150, 250, 350, right? If we're talking Fords. Once you get into the 1500 series truck will probably move more metal for you the most practical way possible. It's amazing what you can pull with that. You could probably still pull 6 tons with a proper hitch setup, or what do you call it, with the fifth wheel or whatever in a truck like that. But even if you can't, just on the ton weight alone of a normal, say tandem trailer, say you get like Paul's big trailer is 5x10, which we're always saying it's too small. Both of us, man, if that trailer would have been, if we could get at least 3 tons in there, man, what a payday that'd be. Because often we'll load that thing and it's probably, the walls on it are probably about 4.5 feet tall. So we can get a lot in there. You'd be surprised what we get in there. But it gets to the point, even with the loading ramp, which is a must, because otherwise half the stuff you'll never get an engine into the back of a truck easily. You know what I mean? You're gonna need some tools such as dollies. You must get yourself a nice trolley or dolly, stuff like that, to be able to move stuff. A trailer with a ramp is definitely going to be a must. Just so much stuff is unwieldy to get it. Like some of this metal, you get like lawn tractors and snowmobiles, stuff with no wheels on it or whatever, and you got to get it on there. Just the sheer weight. Car engines, you know what I mean? I've got a car engine here and I can't get it up. It's like the tailgate on my Ram is pretty darn tall, and I can't lift. I don't know how heavy the engine is. If it's 400 pounds or whatever, I can't lift it. I could drag it up a ramp, but I can't lift it, right? So definitely want a trailer with a ramp. Trailer with high sides. Tandem trailer is always better. If you're on a tight budget, I know a lot of guys, you can find a 4x8 trailer for next to nothing. It's better than nothing, yeah, granted, but use that trailer to make the money to get a bigger trailer. and then keep your truck in good shape, the best shape you can, like tune it up, do all that stuff. So yeah, the trailer's where you're going to make the money, and that like Paul and I were talking, like if we had a, like my trailer here, I'm gonna convert it to a from a like a a travel trailer down to a like a flatbed with I'm gonna have a gated sides on it, maybe about 4 feet tall, and it's a tandem trailer, and that weighs empty weight alone I think is 6,000 pounds. So I know I can carry another 2 tons on top of that. So basically, it's 5,000 pounds max trailer weight plus the load. I would probably not, depending on how I'm able to modify the floor on it, I probably won't take more than, say, 3 tons, 4 tons at a time. But I'd love to be able to take 4 tons at a time at $140 a ton of steel, and then, if you get all the other goodies on there, that's great. But I've got basically a trailer that even if I can only take 2 tons at a time, I can take, I have 23 feet by 8 of volume that I can carry, and maybe about 4 feet tall. So you can get an idea. I can get a lot of the loose, light stuff and throw it in there, and it will add up. Not only that, I can do it in one trip. So the idea is to load as quickly as you can, get the metal to come to you, load as quickly as you can, unload as quickly as you can, and do as few trips as you can. So because let's say you carry an extra ton and you burn an extra couple of bucks of gas, it's still cheaper than going back and getting more, right? So if you can clear out a place like that's what takes you the time, is the loading and unloading, right? Now if you can get really into it, then you get yourself a dump trailer and you can unload in like a couple of minutes. Like it'll take you longer to back in than it'll take you to dump, right? And then once you got that, like I see guys haul metal with dump trucks. Especially the farm guys, they'll have like an old dump truck. They'll just bring it out just for, like, what they'll do all year is just throw the metal in the back of the dump truck, and then at the end of the year they just dump it out. So what they burn in diesel is unless they're using the dump truck for something else. I know 2 guys that do that, right? And I mean, they back up, they literally unload it in a minute and a half. You know what I mean? They throw metal into it all year, and then they unload it in a minute and a half, and then they drive home. Like, how cool is that, right? So that's kind of like, as somebody who's just getting into it, I can give you some numbers here. I would average, like I say, with my red truck, because I was loaded a bit light, a ton and a half at a time usually. So I'd get a little over, like 140, 160, just regular steel. My best day was, Paul and I had done the ski hill, and we got, I don't know how many pounds of brass. We cleaned up the brass and stuff like that. And I'll make other like small videos on it as I get stuff, just to show you, like, here's a little tip. Here's a brass ball valve. If it's got steel on it, it's pretty much number 2 brass, which might be 80 cents a pound, which is not bad. But if you want that $2.10 a pound, again, your prices will vary. Maybe where you are, it's 92 cents a pound, whatever it is. Prices go up and down. Sometimes you hang on to that stuff until the prices, like they're peak price for the year, and then you get rid of it. But also too, you don't want to be hanging on to stuff forever, waiting for prices to go up. Sometimes you just got to get rid of stuff and go get more. You know what I mean? But it's best to keep your stuff when the prices typically peak, which is probably going to be around somewhere like spring, summer, is where the prices are probably going to peak, and then they're probably going to drop off a little bit in the winter, and then they might go up in the midwinter when there's nobody dropping off hardly any steel at all. So yeah, there's all that to consider as well. So yeah, cleaning up your copper, your brass, your aluminum, like your number 1 grade stuff. That stuff is what's going to make you a lot of money really quick. Having 150 pounds of number 1 aluminum is pretty good, but the question is, You know, like if you're gonna, like for example, when it comes to copper wire and brass wire, trying to strip that with an X-Acto knife, number one, is dangerous. You're gonna lose a finger, and number two, it's so tedious and takes so long that if you're into the metal, do a couple of runs with just the loose steel. Hang on to that stuff until you can afford to buy the wire stripper, because you can strip a few 100 pounds of wire in a day, and that will pay. You know, and again, it's a nice small load that you could take with your pickup truck, and away you go. To get that wire, and you got to be careful with some places too. They might get a little bit sketchy if you're showing up with like electrician grade wire. They'll be asking where you're going to get it, so you may have to divulge your source. So you just watch out whatever the laws are on that, because sometimes they get a little funny on stuff like that. You can say, yeah, I got it from this guy. Okay, no problem. Whatever. Some places don't ask at all. Other places might. Even if you're thinking about getting into it, one thing you can do just for the eye opener of what it might entail. Now again, you don't want to be wasting people's time and stuff like that, but just take a trip into the scrap metal yard, saying, I'm thinking of doing some scrap metal. What do I need to know? The do's and don'ts when you get there. And there'll be a procedure. Like for example, when I get there, I make sure the scales are at 0, 0. If there's a number on that scale, well, there's no use getting on the scale, because you'll have to back right off of it, and they'll wait for them to reset the scale. Which most of the time they reset the scale as soon as you leave, and you go dump and you come back and it's still at 0. Other times not. So some whatever it's going to be. How you get paid? Sometimes you get paid cash. Sometimes you get a slip. How you going to do that with your taxes? What I'm going to do is I just keep the actual slip, because you don't get a T4 from this, right? So it's like, here you go. You pay your own taxes on it. So that's what I do. So I get paid cash, and I keep that the slip as my T4. Then I can claim you can claim stuff, right? So for the guys that, I'm just going to do it all under the table. Yeah, but you get caught, you're going to pay the taxes anyway and a fine. So you're better off to just, be forthcoming about it. And not only that, like I say, you can say, well, hey, I have a metal truck. I made this much money. I had to put tires on the truck. I had to do this. I had to do that. Brakes, whatever. Now you can start writing that stuff off. So you got to treat it like a business. So you might not be there right away in the first few years. I've had like when I go to H&R Block, but if you get really into it, you're going to hire yourself a good accountant. But if you're just like making a little bit of like this year, you could say I just made supplement income out of it. But I made a few grand doing it. Like I haven't added it all up. But my best day, for example, we got 2.5 tons of steel, and in that 2.5 tons of steel, we also had about 150 pounds of number one brass. And then the second load of the day, we did the aluminum wire. We had another 150 pounds of aluminum wire and something like 120 pounds of number one copper. So all in all that day, with the brass, we had 97 pounds of gun brass, all that. We cashed out about $1,200 in that day. So that was about 6 hours worth of work between two guys, and we just split 50-50. Having a guy help you sometimes is worth it, sometimes it's not. You got to pay the guy. A lot of times you just go split 50-50. You do have to work, you get half the pay. But then, if you're only bringing a ton, it's not worth it, right? But you can load faster. So I guess I'm going to wrap it up about that. I figured this would be a good in-depth kind of how to get into metal. Where do you go? Well, everybody, this video is going to go around the world type of thing, so it's in your area. Look at not one, but 2 or 3 or 4 different scrap metal areas that are close to you, even if some of them might be quite far away. Like, for example, the one in Cornwall from where I am is 2.5, 3 hours away. But at their height, they were doing $200 a ton. You know what I mean? Now, hauling 2.5 tons that far, well, we'd lose too much in fuel. But if we were able to haul, this is why all summer I was saying to Paul, I said, if we're going to keep doing this, we got to get a dually. We got to be able to pull, 5 tons at a time, 10 tons at a time to make it worthwhile to get, to burn that fuel. Otherwise, we just stick local. And ironically enough, or miracle enough, my area was paying the best anyway, and I literally live less than a minute and a half from from my driveway to the scrapyard's about a minute and a half drive. So, yeah, you could just say it was pretty good. And I still got a whole bunch of metal on the property here to clean up. And then, of course, I'm probably going to run into some farmers that want their metal cleaned up too out of their farms. Like I know a whole bunch of farmhouses that got steel growing out of the ground, so it's like, I bet you those guys, if you offered to go and grab it from them, they would probably say, okay, yeah, come and get it. But you got to watch out. Some of the stuff is so big and bulky that you just can't move it, right? Unless you got a really large trailer. So yeah, you got to work out stuff like that. And the thing is don't just keep yourself, like the recycling business is big. Depending on where you go, like for example, beer bottles. The other day I had cashed in about half of my pop bottles and I got $8. I mean, that was about a year's worth of pop bottles, and I still probably got that in beer case, like probably about 20 beer cases to bring back, stuff like that. There's a lot of people right now that are scared to go places because of what's going on in the world with COVID and all that. That they might pay you to, or not, they might even pay you to help clear out their garage, and they might throw in the pop bottles and beer cases for free. You know what I mean? Or maybe make a deal. Say, if you have at least a couple of 100 pounds of steel, I'll come and get it from you for free if it's close enough. And again, at some point you're going to pick the area clean, is what it is. But that might take a while too. And again, it might be one of those things that you get a metal run every now and then, kind of like me, or you dedicate yourself to it, and people, you kind of go more, you put yourself really out there so people know that that's what you do. And maybe you even say, okay, well, I'll go get your scrap metal, but I'll charge you a service fee. And I also do eco center stuff. That's what we do. Is we basically, my buddy and I, we load up like grass clippings, yard clippings, whatever. We put it on the trailer. We charge them $45 for the service call, $20 an hour labor, from port to port kind of thing. So we drop it off. We're still on the clock. We come back. The $45 is basically to cover the fuel for the day, and a little bit of profit. And if we've got to go further, maybe it's $50 or $60. You determine your price on your distance, right? And then they pay the tonnage. And a lot of people will pay. Like a lot of people don't realize that you can go and grab not just scrap metal, but you can grab other things and take it to your local eco center where they recycle. And you say, okay, yeah, they like, for example, if you have like building materials, it's $170 a ton to drop off. That you have to pay. Well, they have to pay it. You know what I mean? You don't drop it off unless they pay, right? So you can do stuff like that too, And then a lot of times in these other jobs, it's like, okay, well, anything metal we're going to keep for ourselves as well, even though we're dropping off that, which will be cheaper for you anyway. If you're paying to drop off the waste and I keep the scrap metal, well, you don't have to pay for that. You know what I mean? I keep that and I make money off of that too. So there's lots of ways to collect metal. Like sometimes collecting metal is just a byproduct of another job you're doing. So just keep that in mind too. But yeah, I think that's a good place to start. I was only going to make like 10-minute videos, but I thought, why not just get right into the details of it? So it's not hard to do, but it's easy to spend a lot of money. Spend $100 to make 10 here. Where again, there's no use going out of your way to get one or two items. Make sure that the pick is good enough that at least you have enough to cover. Let's put it to you this way: if you're going to get metal and it's not enough to go to the scrapyard because there's not enough in the back, it's probably not worth your time, unless you're going in that direction anyway. But if it's something that like, hey, you know what? Guys got like old rail ties. I got 20 rail ties for you. Okay, there's a ton. They're 200 pounds a piece. Yeah, there's a ton. Right on. You get that, or like I say, you get like an old mechanic shop like we cleared out, and 19 truckloads of ton and a bit at a time to 2 tons at a time. That was a good payday. It took us a week to clear out the shop, but we did good. So if you get a couple of picks like that each year, it could be a good supplement. But if you're looking at getting into it as a job for full time, it's kind of one of those things. It's a hustle. You do have to go searching, and you do have to be able to get the metal to come to you. So it's one of those things. I think over time you could do it professionally, but you're going to have stuff to do in between the metal runs, I think, as well. So that's how I'm doing it, because, like, I couldn't survive just off the metal runs itself, but I do enough metal runs that it's a nice supplement to the year. So, that kind of thing. So how much money can you make on it? It's really how much can you find, how fast you can find it, and how fast you can load it, and how fast you can drop it off, and how few trips you can do it in. That's really the formula. And once you do that, if you can get those things checked, you'll make money doing this. All right. Anyway, good luck to everybody that's going to try it. It is a competitive thing, so just be careful. I don't have to ride with a crowbar in the front seat yet, but depending on what area you're in, there could be a lot of scrap metal guys, and sometimes they will clash with each other, so just be careful of that. I've heard stories. And next to that, yeah, so hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you want to support the channel, there's links down below. And again, if you want to check out more of my content, I have some scrap metal content. It's more for fun than real detailed stuff. But I might, get more detailed as I get good stuff that I think is going to be worthwhile showing you. I'll do that, like stripping the wire, stuff like that. If I can get, a video of stripping the wire and, how to sort it out. The sorting and stuff like that. There's a lot of videos out there, but I'll show you that stuff later on. And again, there's a big area you can go in here. There's lots to recycle, and again, it's good for the environment. That's like it's real environmentalism. Getting all that scrap steel cleaned up and stuff like that. Plus, recycles. You recycle old vehicles, so you get new parts for your old vehicles. You see what I'm getting at? Everything goes around. Everything, the cycle of life, right? There we go. So next to that, rate, subscribe, share, comment, like. Be true to yourself. Be true to others. Always do the right thing. Have yourselves a great day. And yeah, take care.